Thank you everyone for joining us on another episode of Market Like It's Hot. My name is Yasmine Robles and I am the owner of currently Robles Designs, future name Rebel Marketing. And with me, as always, because she's forced to, is Izzy, who is our really the brains behind the operation and who smacks shiny things out of my way so that I can stay on track.
I'm
And
not
Izzy,
being
why don't
held
you introduce
hostage.
yourself?
But
Blink twice.
my name's Izzy Dadoski, and I'm more on the analytics and social side of the company. But yeah.
And with us today, we have Bethany George, who is the follow-up boss and really the person I would love to be if I would love people and peopling.
The extrovert's extrovert.
Yeah. Why don't you introduce yourself, Bethany?
So yes, I am known as the follow-up boss, and I love working with business owners, B2B business owners, helping them actually come to enjoy sales, which is a fun conversation that Yasmine and Izzy and I have gotten to have recently, which I love.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to have you because we're going to be discussing not just sales for small businesses, but how marketing and sales can really come together to make people tons of money. And hopefully you give back, but at least you can be like Scrooge McDuck and dive into a pool of gold. So I'll kick off some of the questions and then Izzy can ask some of them as well, and we will see where this interview leads us. So one of the first questions that I have here are, what are some of the key elements of an effective follow-up strategy? So you're known as the follow-up boss. What are some top items that we need to keep in mind to create this holistic view of following up?
Awesome. One of my favorite questions, because when people think follow-up, this is what they think of. And usually the first thing they think of is, how do I follow up after I've sent a proposal and for some reason things have gone silent? And this is just one of the many areas where follow-up is important, but it's the one that I think of people ask about the most. And it's one of those areas where I like to break people out of their usual mold. I always tell them, stop sending emails that say, just checking in, or I'm following up on that proposal. And instead, I'm going to give you a quick little flip is to like get inside their brains and think, what are they probably asking themselves right now? What might be holding them back from clicking the go button? You know, whether it's money, the unanswered questions. We all should know our clients well enough to know there are things that hold people back from going. So pre-answer those questions and make that your follow-up instead of the really boring follow-up messages. But there's more areas of follow-up than that.
So that's really cool because I literally think we do send an email of, we're just checking in on this proposal. So really knowing your audience, this is something we talk about a lot in marketing, is just know exactly who you're targeting so that your messaging can be on point. But then when it comes to following up, whether it is that proposal, you still need to know your audience because you get to know what their frustrations are, if it is about the money or if they just didn't like your joke about tacos and margaritas, and what weirdos.
Who would that be?
Yeah. Izzy, what questions do you have for Bethany?
Let me think here. So with doing a follow-up and those cold leads that you were talking about, how would you get them to re-engage when they haven't even responded in a while?
So specifically after a proposal in that kind of space? Mm-hmm. So if you have someone where you sent a proposal and they just kind of went silent in a period of time, it's become clear that for whatever reason, it's got backburnered, they're not taking action. You may not know why. That's where it's really important that all the stuff you've done beforehand has happened, the relationship building side of it. Because that's when you pull back from the business. You say, okay, something more in their world is happening. Let's step back from the transactional moment. Let's step into, where are they in the world right now? What's happening with them? Because when you step out of that transactional, let's talk about this proposal, which clearly something's not working, and you step into something a little more personal. And you say, hey, I know you as a human being that has life going on. Tell me what's going on. Let's just reconnect as humans, potentially as friends, as colleagues. You show them, you give them a glimpse into the experience of working with you. Hopefully that's how you operate. Maybe you don't, in which case be you. But if you operate in a space of like, I want to have a comfortable relationship with you in and outside of a client position, you demonstrate that at all levels, especially when things go quote unquote cold. You just say, okay, cool. This isn't the time. This isn't the place. We're still good. We'll still be here when you're ready. Let's keep talking, knowing that we have more than just this project we want to do together. We have something else developed between us. Let's continue that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I guess like my next question is, when do you know when to back off?
How do you know when?
Yeah.
So it has a lot to do with where things were before.
Yeah.
If let's say you did a call with somebody, they're like, I'm really excited to work with you. Let's make this happen. Send me a proposal. I'll get back to you right away. And then it just goes silent.
Yep.
Something has happened. Mm-hmm. Now you can kind of look back at your previous interactions with them because there are personalities who are kind of hot and cold. They're like, I'm in it now. We're doing this thing. But you knew that you didn't hear from them for 6 months before that. And then they just popped up and so that might be a little bit of and so if that's happened in that case, then something has shifted their attention. And that might be a moment to be like, cool, priorities have shifted. I get it. If you have someone who's just steady and stable and always there and they go silent, that's usually when you send is everyone okay? Is anyone on do I need to get a meal train set up for you? Like, and kind of joking, but kind of serious because you kind of judge it off the person. But usually if you've sent a couple messages to them and you've got nothing, then you send is everyone okay? Is everyone alive? Do you need anything from me? We'll put this on the side for now. Life is as it is. I'm a huge proponent of you give people permission to say no and be like, listen, now's not the time. Then you also give them space to be like, okay, I trust you and I really do want to work with you. I am not a proponent of putting pressure on people to make them purchase.
Yeah.
I actually think that creates a very negative relationship.
So like with that pressure, especially like with us, I feel like we're a little bit more, we have to try a little bit harder being a small business. So like, what would you say like we should do to follow up effectively without coming off way too pushy or like, please sign with us?
And I still go back to it has a lot to do with the relationship.
Yeah.
You get to know people. And if you've built that relationship before you've gotten there, you can really speak to them. People get to know me pretty well. Mm-hmm. And they know that I'm like high energy, get excited. And I'm not afraid to express that when someone says, yeah, I want to sign up with you. I will say, I'm really excited to work with you. And some sales trainings will be like, oh, you don't want to show off too much. You don't want them to think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
If that's your personality, which for me it is, I absolutely am excited to work with somebody. And I want them to know that I'm excited to work with them. And if they come back with or go silent and it seems that things aren't going to work out, I'll even say like, I'm really bummed it didn't work out this time, but I know that things come around and this thing that you came to me for, probably not going away anytime soon. So when you're ready, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And I will also say, if you're holding a spot for a client, they're like, we really want to work with you. And you're like, okay, I've got space for you right now. But you also know that space is limited. You're like, you can have this space, but if you don't take a seat, like I do have someone else asking for it. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Hey, I was really excited to work with you. We know we have space for you right now. We have other people that are also talking with us. I'm not trying to give you, and I like to say, I'm not trying to pressure you into taking this spot. but I would love to work with you. And now's the time if you have space. Again, if now's not the time, totally understand. We'll just need to make sure that when you're ready, that there's space for you. So like, be aware there could be a delay if you come back to me in 6 months. I may not have space for you then.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about, so we're talking about following up after we've sent the proposal, but I know you're also a pro at following up. Well, you're a pro at going to networking events and not being awkward like I am. But then you follow up with them after you've met them at a networking event. Or even following up cold in a cold snail mail kind of way. So can you tell me a little bit about what that process looks like? I suppose it's still about knowing your audience, but can you tell me a little bit more? Because people forget about following up after they have met them at an event, unless they really want to be salesy and sleazy and feel icky.
Exactly. Well, and so like in networking, you're in a warm space, but you're not in a pitchy space. And that's one of the challenges that people face. They tend to go one extreme. They either think, okay, I'm here to get business, so I have to tell you what I do. And they think they have basically one or two opportunities. The opportunity face-to-face at that event, or if they can get you down and sitting, having coffee or whatever, they think that's their only other opportunity. And so they try to spill it all on you at once. That's like coming on to somebody at a bar. It's like coming on to somebody at the first date. And when we put it in that context, we're suddenly like, oh my God, you're right. Ugh. And that's why it feels weird. So you kind of have to date people, you have to be gentle about it. And that's the other extreme, is where people go to an event and they'll meet some people and they're like, cool, I hope one of those people buy from me. I've met them one time. Or maybe you'll see a if you're good about going to the same networking events again and again. Yasmine and I did this. You get to know people just because you have casual conversations. I don't need to have a conversation about what I do every single time I see somebody. Oh, by the way, did you know that I do this, this, and this? You can work with me if you want to. Please stop. You just be a normal human being. The key here is purposefulness. So, when you meet somebody and you're like, that person could be a good client for me. They're the right type. They have the right needs. I would like to know more. You start to kind of date them. You do little things. You look for them at events. You interact. You ask them, how's your day going? What's happening? You think of little ways to drop little like goodies for them. Yasmine, do you recognize any indications of things that I sent you? Wink, wink.
You played the long game.
And when you are thinking about it in the long way, in the long term, one, it takes some pressure off of you. It just requires intentionality, but it also takes pressure off of the other people. They don't feel like you're just trying to use them. And my most recent methodology of doing this has been sending postcards to people after I meet them, which I love, and people have had such a positive response. But when I go to a networking event, one of my goals, I actually have a couple sitting here. I always try to get a couple business cards. I'm a proponent of, I get the card. I can give you my card all day long. I'm not expecting you to do anything with it. Why would I expect you to do anything with it? That's not your job. That's my job. I'm the business owner who wants to, do something with you. I have to take initiative. So I'll take your card. I'll save it in my system. I go find you on LinkedIn and connect. And then I keep you in mind. I might send you an email. Let's grab coffee. But I have a process of ways of just gently getting to know you to see if there's a fit, if, we're cool.
Yeah. And I do love the idea. It had never occurred to me to send a postcard. Like, thank you. It was so great to meet you at this networking event. But I think nowadays, when everything is just going to be an email or a LinkedIn request, that snail mail card that I'll get a week or week and a half later, and it depends on the post office, it's really cool, and you can add a QR code when tying it back to marketing. You can add that QR code in. You can do a thank you for visiting this website kind of video, a special page on your site, link it to your social media. You can do so much with it, but you've already gotten their attention at the networking event, and then you've gotten their attention with the snail mail card they're not just going to toss away. And yeah, I thought it was a great idea. It's not all I get is like credit card stuff. So like either you owe me money or would you like to owe me money? So getting something from Bethany, it's great. And a saying that might or might not fit when you were talking about, you don't want to just like every time you meet them or as soon as you meet them, jump in and start talking about everything that you could sell to them. There's a saying, isn't it? Like give them a snack, don't open up the whole kitchen. That might be for something else, but we could use it with this.
That's awesome. I love that.
This is what Izzy puts up with all the
time. Well, and I think it's worthwhile too. Yasmine, you've heard me talk about this. The difference between my defining differences between sales and marketing, and I find that business owners don't have a clear understanding of the difference. And when they're struggling with getting the sales goals they want, getting the clients they want, their first thing to do is, I need to do more marketing. I need to do more marketing. And yes, that may be very true, and it may not be. So before I tell you my definition, I'm curious if I could ask you guys, how would you define the difference between marketing and sales?
Oh, Izzy, you go first.
Yeah, way to put me under pressure. I feel like marketing is more of a tactic or a plan, where sales is more of an action. So like with marketing, there's a lot of thought in like what your brand is, like what are you representing, different things like that, how you're just presenting yourself, and that kind of gets that like feeler out there for most people. But sales is more of the action of selling. So marketing is more of a support, but sales is more of the action.
Damn it, I should have gone first. Okay, so all right.
Did I win?
Let's see, can I say ditto? Is that
what she said?
Yeah. I agree. I think marketing is really marketing. It feels like it's a long game. It's getting your name out there. What's the messaging like? It's some of those things, but sales is more, go out and take that action, whether it is in person or making that call, meeting with people, shaking hands, kissing babies. I don't know, Bethany, if you've kissed babies that are not okay, this might go in a weird direction, but going out there, shaking hands, kissing babies, that's what I feel like sales is. But sales can veer, just like marketing can veer off the wrong path. So marketing can turn really icky. If you've ever seen a weird ad that wasn't meant for you, like it can turn bad. But sales can also turn. I've been in front of people where either this is the fifth time I've met them and they're still trying to sell me insurance, and I'm like, dude, like I do not need insurance, or I don't make that kind of income to need what you're giving me. Right. I wish I could do that, but no, I cannot buy a boat. So I think both of them are in a peril of like, you can go sleazy really quickly, so you have to keep an eye on them. But marketing is really, it's the base, like what message are you putting out there? And sales is, like Izzy said, more of like that action oriented thing. And it depends on who's doing it for your company, because sales can be a quicker turnaround. You're meeting with people, and marketing is almost like that slow rise. Mm-hmm. Are we all wrong?
I love it. No, and you'll see how my definition, it goes along really well with that. It was fun to that's why I wanted to hear your definitions of it as well, because as marketers, I'm always kind of curious. I'm like, where do you place this? And I'm always curious when I give my definition, if marketers are going, no.
Well, I think marketing and sales go really well hand in hand, right? They should, sometimes and usually in companies, they're two separate entities. And bless you. Thank you. We're going to keep that in there. So marketing and sales really go, I feel like they should talk to each other. They shouldn't be siloed into two different places, because what marketing can do to support sales, sales can then also give marketing feedback. So if I'm a total nerd and I can give sales information about who's coming to the website, who are we tracking with pixels on the ads, but then sales can give marketing information like, hey, this is what customers are saying on the floor. This is what they're talking about when I go out, and these are the issues that they're actually telling me that they're having. So they go hand in hand. They should be working together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my definition of marketing and sales, marketing is the general messaging and materials that you put out to your audience as a whole. It is generally a more passive form of interaction. So you're putting something up and you're expecting someone to read it, look at it, interact with it, respond to it. While sales is that action-oriented, having direct conversations with individuals. So where marketing would be your website, your social media, print material, bulletin boards, could be mailers. Those are all things you're giving people and you're expecting them to respond. You're expecting their response to it. While sales is, let me go directly to the person and have the conversation and find out, do they want this? Is what they need, getting their reactions. The idea with marketing is you're drawing people in. Once they're in, now you're having an individual conversation. Now you're in a sales conversation. Always have to have sales skills, regardless of how you draw people in. There will be a point when, you're closing the deal, you're finishing, you're getting them, reassuring, clarifying to the potential client what you're doing. And every business has some form of a sales cycle, but some have a really short one. If I go online and I buy an object, I have a hand warmer. I was like, what's something I could grab? I buy something off the internet. That's a really short sales cycle. Probably the only interaction that I'm going to have is if I have a problem with it. While as if I'm buying a service or I need to work directly to have something created or built, then I need to have much more direct interaction and clarity before I sign up. And those distinctions are important because if you think marketing is going to do it for you and that's all you need, you might be losing people at the end of that.
So what are some, then pivoting it into like how can we even track if we're doing it right as a small business? Is it about shiny objects and tools, or what can we look for to make sure that our sales or our follow-up process is working?
It's really good to understand what your client's journey looks like, or customer journey looks like. Look at, if you're ever like, am I doing this right? Or am I missing something? Look at every client that you can, depending on how many you've had, but look as many as you can. Look back and say, where did they find me, or where did I find them? When did they say, okay, I want to know more about what you do? It's what I call the interest stage. When did that happen? Think about how long did that conversation go on before they said, okay, send me a proposal. How do I pay? Whatever it is, that the yes that you get, that when did that verbal yes happen? And then what was the process until they became a client? That is your sales journey, your buyer's journey. Understand what those pieces look like. Now look at the people that you've had those, you've tried to sell to, you've had those conversations with, and where did they go missing? What happened? And you can start noticing big areas of gap where people just get lost. And more often than not, it's something you're not doing. Or you're just reaching the wrong people. But a lot of times, I hear this so many times from salespeople who are like, oh, they just weren't the right person. It just wasn't the right time. Well, maybe that is true, and that can very well be the case. But you would have known some of those things ahead of time if you had been listening. You might have known. I know when I've had people who are like, not the right time. I kind of already knew, but I still followed through to make sure. But if it hits you, you're like, oh, they didn't go forward. Oh, that was their fault. Maybe you did something that it didn't feel right. You said something, you did something, you didn't do something. There's a lot of didn't do's that is leaving people feeling like something's off.
Almost feels like this is a relationship. It does.
Right?
So on that note, what do you think of, because it is a lot about relationship building. What do you think about the systems that go out like on LinkedIn and try to get you leads? But I mean, I have my thoughts on them, but what are your thoughts?
I'm curious what your thoughts are on them. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with automated systems, and with the new AI systems. I love them when executed well, and it's very important. You're very clear on the right moments to have those executed on. And it's usually best if they know it's an automated system. When you fake it and then that system fails somehow, you can burn that bridge so fast. And this is where AI is actually doing us dirty. And I'm curious, I want to hear from you guys from the marketing perspective. I'm hearing widespread across the sales industries, that the sales world in the different industries, is that consumers are already distrusting written media 10 times more than they used to because we think it's AI. If we think a computer's talking to us, we want anything to do with it. We want to talk with a human. We want to know. And here, I'll give you a quick psychology, because I think people are missing this piece of it. The psychology is, if I'm talking to a computer doesn't care if there's a problem. If I'm talking to a human, I can hold a human accountable. A human should have empathy for my situation. So if I'm working with a company and something goes wrong, I'm expecting that I can reach out to customer service, to a human, and say, this is what's going wrong. I need you to help me. And they will respond with compassion and empathy and understanding. Computers don't have emotions. Computers don't care. And we have all of us have been burned by corporations who act like big machines and just churn us in and out and spit us out and don't care.
Yeah. Izzy, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was just going to say, like, with that, especially like what you're talking about with all the different methods that you take, it just makes it more like personalized compared to me wanting to bash my head into like a counter. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
that's drastic.
Yeah. Is it? But it's interesting to like hear that other people feel the same way about that. But then also I think too, like, how some people are just wired like that too. Like, I've met a lot of salespeople in the past who just like, they act like robots. You know what I'm saying? So having like the more engaging conversations and different things like that, I don't know, just like kind of sets you apart. So.
Yeah, for when it comes to those automated messaging systems that will do the outreach for you, I think it can go well, but you really have to make sure you've done the work of back to understanding who you are reaching out to, how they want to be spoken to, because I get those messages and I completely ignore anyone who's reaching out to me that way, because I can tell they didn't either. They say, "Hey, Robles Designs," and I'm like, "Okay, cool, you got the name of the company, but that's not my name." Or it won't sound like a human. And I don't mean you have to add typos, but it doesn't sound like they did their research on what our vibe is, who we actually are, what our aesthetic is and all that. So I immediately get rid of those, because I can tell it's basically they inserted my name and it's the same exact copy paste message.
Right.
I would say humans can do that. Like, if you do your research and then do some cold outreach, usually that's when I respond. And I will respond with saying something like, "Hey, I'm not really interested in what you're offering right now, but this sounds really cool. I'm still open to a coffee chat to see if I know anyone who this might be a good fit for." But that's when it's more human. And I always worry, like, if we were to do that, I always worry, okay, if we're shooting out thousands of these messages, what's the vibe that we're giving to everyone else who decided to ignore us? Do they go to our page and think, well, these are the people I'm going to blame for being spammed.
Mhm.
Um, so I think it's a good tool. I think the tool needs to be really refined by whomever's going to be utilizing it, making sure that it's brand appropriate, that you're really niching down on who it's going to reach out to specifically. And then just because I'm a nerd, just like keep an eye on how many messages is it actually sending and how many responses did you get back? And then from that, how many sales did you get? But
Mhm.
you also want to keep an eye on, are people talking about us behind our backs and saying, man, these people are so annoying?
Well, and you go back to those cold messages too. Let's talk about like LinkedIn DMs. How many of us have been pitched in the DMs? And
Yeah.
it's just like being approached at a bar by someone who's like, "Hey, cutie, want to go home with me tonight?" Like, buy me a drink first, please. Come
Mhm.
on, like it. With LinkedIn, I think that's one of the challenges. Sometimes somebody might be selling something that is a quick, easy, oh, sure, I'll take a look at that. Most of the time, they're not. Um, and you can't skip the relationship. You cannot skip it. The phrase "no like and trust." I have to, and I actually like to flip it to like, no trust. Firstly, I have to like you. There has to be, you have to pass the vibe check. Basic, before I know anything about you, did you pass the vibe check? Then I need to know a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do? How could you help me? And then I have to know that I can trust you. And trust is a really interesting emotion that cannot be prescribed. Simon Sinek said a really interesting thing. He's like, trust. He was referring to just in relationships in general. If you have a friend who comes up to you and is like, "I'm getting married," and you're like, you've known him for 3 days, that's not enough time. But if you get, a friend comes up like, "I'm getting married," you're like, "It's been 7 years. It's about time." So that trust level happens somewhere between 7 days and 7 years. We don't exactly know how long it takes, and it depends on the person, and it depends on the interactions, how often. Same thing in business. How much do they know? How much do you know about them? How much do they know about you as a person, about your business? It takes multiple interactions in order to develop that emotional trust. You can't do it in a single cold DM.
So note to self, when I go to the bar, do not try to marry someone. Is that
I don't know, Yasmine,
the
you're so
lesson?
dang cute. You might be able to get away with it.
That's why I take Izzy. Izzy beats people away.
I'm the
Yeah.
security.
Yeah. That's literally how she messed up her knee. She like did a flip and then kicked someone in the head. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, didn't land it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta act impulsively, and
I thought the triple
Yeah.
backflip was maybe doing too much, so that's 100% on me.
Just a little bit. Now that was just like almost showing off. Almost.
Yeah, I was being too showy. It's karma. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Izzy, why don't you pick the next question to ask?
Okay. I guess so. You were kind of talking about the postcards and different things that you send out. What is like a story of like some of the tactics that you've taken in your like sales role, and like what was a really cool outcome from that, I guess?
I don't know if I have any like super flashy stories,
Yeah.
because I go the long run, and people don't like. We love to hear the story of, the person I didn't talk to in 2 years, and then I, sent them something, and bam, they showed up like, "Oh my God, where have you been my whole life? I missed you. Like, we should work together." I don't have a ton of those, because I do stay in touch with people. I started this business, it's almost been 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of those 5 years, I set up a CRM, and I'm dedicated to that system. And I like the system I use because I have not just tracked interactions with them, but I've made notes. I can go back and figure out how we met, what we've talked about. And every once in a while I'll go in there and I'll be like, who have I not talked to
What's on our
What's in
tab?
mine?
What's on our tab?
Yeah, yeah. What do you have on us?
Or,
Yeah.
I want to know what you have on us.
Izzy, yours is much shorter because I'm still developing it. I can.
I'm still in review.
Like I go back and I can look and see exactly the first time I met Yasmine.
You haven't been moved to the approved column,
I
Izzy.
know. It's horrible.
Under review.
I love it. I love your guys' reactions. You're like, wait a minute.
At least we know it's not pass fail.
What's so funny is every once in a while we'll let someone take a peek into my system and what I have, and I'll like scroll real quick because I'm like, I don't remember all the notes that I put. But usually, if I've let anybody see it, they're all positive notes. But you know,
I have a
people
resting
that I have,
face. It's not my fault. I promise.
There's a few people in my system. I've got some notes like, well, they just bad interactions with them. They're in my system, you know.
Yeah.
The people that they're like, oh, I'll be on a Zoom call with someone. And like, oh, you should meet so and so. I'm like, I met that person. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'll just smile and I'm like, okay, I probably will never work with them because they did something weird. Like I had one guy pitch me on, very first Zoom call. He started, let me show you this thing. And he did like a presentation. I'm like, yikes, never send anybody to you.
Yeah, it's too much.
It's a little crazy. But yes, I love that though, because when I do have somebody reappear that I haven't talked to in years, I don't have the best memory. Oh, no, here's a good example of that, actually. I was at a local co-working space, and I am always in purple, so people have learned to recognize me, which is awesome and also terrifying, because sometimes I don't remember them. And so I was at this co-working space, and this gentleman he'd brought his dog in. So I noticed him when he walked in the first time. He walked by me a second time, and I made a comment about his dog, and he's like, "You're the purple lady." And then I don't know where else. He's like, you're the follow-up boss. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm going, how do I know you? How do I know you? How do I know you? I finally just had to like come clean and be like, you're going to have to remind me your name. It's been a while. And he told me his name. I didn't remember the name either. And I'm like, cool. So I like pulled up my system and real quick. And I'm like, oh, he actually happened to be the co-owner of that co-working space, but I hadn't talked to him since I started this business. It had been almost 5 years since I had talked with this guy. But it saved my life because I was like, oh, this is who this person is.
I think I need that. I feel like it's either that or I need, in The Devil Wears Prada, how her assistants are like reminding her who people are and they have to memorize. It's like, that's your CRM. Also, what if he had looked you up? He was like, who is that purple lady? Search keyword.
Maybe. I'm relatively easy to find that way. The other thing I will say, because you mentioned stuff, let's see, I think I used to have it over here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I had it floating over here, and I think I might have. Oop, yep, I have it in here. Okay, so I did this a few years ago. I love mailing people stuff because, as we talked about earlier, we get bills and give me your money. And so a few years ago, I was Valentine card shopping for my kids, and I love silly, quirky things. And I was like, do y'all remember getting Valentine's cards as kids? Well, why don't we get to do that as an adult? And I found these little Valentine's cards things that open up. And this particular one is the original, like the Valentine's, I can unfold all the way. The original Valentine's papers that I purchased. But then I had some made with my own logo, which I'm not going to go dig those out right now, but I still have them.
Oh, really?
I just wrote that down. I was like, huh.
Isn't that fun?
Valentine's, yeah.
And it's what I love about this was, and I mailed these out to a whole bunch of people, is we are kind of used to getting potentially Christmas cards, birthday cards, and lots of companies will send out those things, and they usually feel very rote. Like, oh, got a Christmas card. Oh, got a birthday. And yes, we should feel special because we remembered, but again, automation. People kind of gotten used to that just automated. And if it looks like, oh, it's a general card they send out to everyone for their birthday, it still doesn't feel special. It still doesn't make a emotional connection. You get some strange Valentines. Who sends Valentine's cards? And so when that shows up in the mail, you're going to be like, okay, this is different. This is outside the box. And especially, I love this one because it was interactive and it was nostalgic. So it was really hitting on some emotional, like, core memories. And it was fun getting people's reactions when they received those.
That's pretty cool. How can small businesses, what can they do to align their marketing and sales efforts if they have like really limited resources or teams? So let's say it's a smaller micro business. They're trying to do the marketing, they're trying to do the sales, they're listening to you, trying to follow up. What can they do to align both and knowing that they're limited on time and or finances or team members? Not speaking for myself.
Speaking for a lot of, what is the percentage of businesses are small businesses? Isn't it like 70% of business is small business?
Yeah, and then there you don't even, that's still like, I don't remember exactly, so somebody can correct me in the internet, but I think it's like what, 499 employees is still considered small business. So then we have like the micro businesses that are out there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of business. This is what's most important is that you know your audience. I talk to a lot of, again, Yasmine, tell me if you get this. I talk to a lot of business owners who are like, I'm afraid to niche down because I'm afraid that I'm going to be missing people. And I know I say, when you are speaking to one person, the other person will hear you. When you're trying to broadcast to everybody, no one is listening. It's like when I tell my kids, hey, could somebody take the trash out? There's no somebody in my house.
Yeah.
If I tell my oldest son, you need to take the trash out, now not that any of my other kids are going to listen and do the trash. They're not going to. But I mean, if I say, hey, Ty, there are cookies on the counter, you know the other kids are listening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they could negotiate if you tell your older kid and he wants to negotiate something.
Yes, but the responsibility's been put on him.
Yeah.
But similarly, when I keep trying to tell people the psychology behind niching down isn't necessarily that you're excluding people. It's that you're including people. And when you are very clear on who you're trying to reach, then you know where to find them. You know how to connect with them. You know what kind of relationship they need. You can zero in the activities needed to grow your reputation and your business. If you don't niche down, then you're trying to do all the things. You're trying to be present online, and you're trying to have a fantastic website, and you're trying to get your SEO up, and you're trying to be in networking events, and you're trying to speak at events, and you're going freaking crazy because you're trying to do everything. Figure out where your people are and be there. Be in that space.
We're going to have to cut that clip and put it on social media. That was good. I felt like you were speaking to me. It's like, I was like, yes, Bethany, I will.
I might know my audience.
Yeah. All right. So how can people get a hold of you? What is one last tip that you have? And then how can people get a hold of you? Words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Words of wisdom when it comes to sales. If you feel like you suck at sales, it's because you've been told you have to fit into the box to sell someone else's way. Find your strength. Find how people connect with you, why they know, like, and trust you, and do that. And that could be a whole podcast by itself.
Yeah, which we could have you back on for. This is my mindset, I guess. I have to work on it. My therapist appointment's tomorrow. When you said, if you think you suck at sales, it's because you do, hire me. And then you went in a different direction. I was like, oh, that's nice of her.
If you think you suck at sales and you want to figure out how you can not suck at sales, yes, hire me. But it's because you've tried to fit into someone else's box.
Yeah, yeah. So how can people get a hold of you?
So you can find me at thefollowupboss.com. And I'm most prevalent on LinkedIn under my name, Bethany George. You will know it's me because I'm all purple. And but I'm also on other social medias as the Follow-Up Boss as well.
Awesome. And you gave your final words of wisdom. Do you have a favorite quote?
I have lots of quotes, and it's hard to know the one at any point in time. But I would probably say, I don't know if this might be too much. Maya Angelou had a quote, and I have it on a plate, which is why I'm moving, because I have to get it down, because it's just long enough. I should memorize it, but I don't have it memorized. Look, I wrote it. I made it on a plate. I'm going to read it because it's in a big circle. So, this is one of my favorite quotes. So, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Do you recognize it yet? Our deepest fears is that we are powerful beyond measure. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others the permission to do the same.
Wow.
Boom.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Well, I don't know how to beat that. Izzy, what? Beat it. No. How can people get a hold of you, Izzy?
My phone number.
My social security.
Izzy Dadoski. Yeah. That's where you can hit me up.
And you got, yeah. Yes, go bother Izzy on LinkedIn and watch out because I don't know exactly when this is coming out, but we might or might not be Robles Designs. We might be Rebel Marketing. So you can find us at myrebelmarketing.com. And yeah, you can bother us on LinkedIn. Make sure to check out Bethany. Bethany is incredible. She really knows, yes, the sales and the follow-up, but giving you confidence in understanding your audience and then really pitching to them, selling to them in a way that doesn't make you feel sleazy or awkward. Yeah.
That's my goal.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We're live. It always feels weird.
The boom across my screen. I don't know.
Boom.
Yes. And you're live.
Oh, sorry.
No, I mean like the boom and then you're live.
Yeah.
Have you seen,
Unless you're in another
cringy,
place and then the boom might not.
TikTok family that's like, we bring the boom? Have you heard of that?
I feel like...
Okay, never mind. I'm just going to keep that coming to myself.
I feel like there needs to be like a setup where we're all set up like Charlie's Angels or something.
Oh, because now I have to
figure out how to use post.
There we go. Is it?
I don't know. There you go.
All right, great. Okay, let's make it official, guys.